Clicking on this video, you may be wondering, what is a non-MLB stadium? Will Sean really be reviewing that stadium that I threw up at when I was 5 years old while picking grass instead of watching the game I was playing in? I'm sorry to disappoint you if that's what you were looking forward to, but a non-MLB stadium, for the purposes of this video and the upcoming worst video, is any stadium where an MLB game was played, but it's not home to any of the 30 MLB teams. And before I hear any of you in the comments saying,
Well, actually, the Marlins had a home game at the White Sox Stadium in 2004 because of a hurricane,
no one cares about that. I'm not going to be talking about any of these games that were played at an actual MLB stadium, just swapping with someone else. That's boring. If you want to know my thoughts on MLB stadiums, you know where to go. Watch my past videos. I had a great time making this video, researching, seeing all these stadiums that I either didn't remember very well or just flat out didn't know about until I started looking into them. So please go into this video knowing that not only is it a top 5, but it's also an appreciation of the history of these stadiums that a newer generation may forget. With that being said, this is Sean, and this is my top 5 best non-MLB stadiums in history. Coming in at number 5 is the stadium at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. Yes, that's actually its name. There were 3 games played here in a series in 2007 between the Rangers and the Rays. The Rays were the home team, and other than that, MLB has forgotten about this place. While researching, I found its design took inspiration from some Gothic and Spanish elements, and the person who designed it actually dubbed it its own style called Florida Picturesque. And when I first saw this stadium, I loved it. I mean, this exterior is awesome. For whatever reason, I couldn't find that many pictures of the exterior, so let's go on a trip on Google Earth. So here we are outside the place, and it's just pretty cool. I mean, only 3 games here during the regular season. I wish we could have seen a little more action, but you have these flags out here in left field. I thought it would be teams or something. Cool, it's advertisements, which kind of sucks, but whatever. You have all sorts of other complexes. I mean, right now, today, I believe all that happens here is youth baseball games and tournaments. On the website, I can see a lot of advertisements to host tournaments there. So I'm guessing that's all it's used for. I couldn't really find much else, but this place is pretty awesome. We can go to a street view here. And the thing that really stood out to me is if you told me that there would be a complex right next to Disney World in Florida where MLB baseball game would be played one day, and you were asked, what would it look like? I would assume it looks something like this. I mean, the way that the yellow on the outside reminds me of some old baseball stadiums, that sort of architectural style like we were talking about earlier. I think this is just pretty epic. You wouldn't really think there'd be a stadium in here. I bet when you go in, it'd be a pretty cool experience. And yeah, I think this place rocks. The entire complex opened in 1997, and as you can see on this map, it's literally right below where Disney World is. And by this time, Disney World's already thriving, so this place is opening up. It hosted an exhibition game between the Braves and the Reds, but that doesn't count. I'm not talking about that game. It was most notably known as the spring training home of the Atlanta Braves. And I bet this is a fun place to catch a game. I mean, 8,000 person capacity. You're right next to Disney World. It looks like you're not too far from anything to get from the concession stands. I bet you the merchandise is insane. This just looks like a cool venue. One thing that confuses me is why the only series that happened here in 2007 was between the Rangers and the Rays and not the Braves. But something cool that did almost happen, as the Rays announcer points out in this video, is the Rays almost had their first ever home rain delay. But besides this game, it just remained the home of the Braves for spring training and some minor league and AFL teams here and there. But with the expansion of the complex to now have a big arena for cheerleading tournaments and a football stadium and more baseball fields, this was becoming a hub for so many local sports, and the Braves wanted a more low-key spring training facility. In 2019, the Braves moved to a new facility for spring training, and I honestly don't think there will ever be another Major League Baseball game here. So here's a hidden gem I found. What do you guys think? At number 4, I have Roosevelt Stadium. This was built in 1937, and there were 15 Major League Baseball games played here between 1956 to 57. I know I said I'm not going to talk about when teams play at other teams' stadiums because of some stupid crap happening, but I didn't say anything about teams playing at other stadiums because their owner is trying to get a new stadium and maybe wants to play at other stadiums to send a message to the city saying, please build us a stadium, which never happened for the Dodgers, unfortunately. And they moved to Los Angeles. But that's not the point. The reason that there were 15 games played here across 2 seasons by the Dodgers is because their owner used it as a negotiation tactic with the city of Brooklyn. It didn't work out for them, but it got this stadium on the illustrious list of non-MLB stadiums. In 1937, the stadium was built with $1.5 million for Jersey City's International League affiliate team of the New York Giants, the Jersey City Giants. But it eventually came to only host mostly local high school football and baseball games, which honestly I think's pretty cool. This footage alone should prove to you just how awesome this place was. New York and New Jersey at this time, there were skyscrapers popping up, some of the tallest buildings in the entire world at the time in the distance. And this fantastic stadium was also designed with beauty in mind. As I'm sure you architecture nerds out there know, 7 years before this, in 1930, the Chrysler Building was built in New York, and it actually has the record for world's tallest building. It held it from May 27th, 1930 till May 1st, 1931. This building was built with the Art Deco architecture style, and Roosevelt Stadium, 7 years later, was built with that same style, and it was only around from that 20s to 30s era prominently. And it's just so awesome in my eyes. I am so glad that there are 15 MLB games that took place here in history. Unfortunately, this stadium was demolished in 1985, but I think it had a good life. It left a good legacy. And one last tidbit that some of you may also know about this stadium is this is where Jackie Robinson originally broke the minor league color barrier. He had a pretty badass stat line on that day as well. That's just a cool thing I didn't know about this place. Makes it more legendary than I already thought. My number 3 best non-MLB stadium is the iconic Tokyo Dome. It has hosted 10 games, all 2-game series in the year 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, and 2019. If you know sports and you know Japan, you know the Tokyo Dome. Every World Baseball Classic has had a game here. This place is awesome. It's nicknamed the Big Egg because of its dome-shaped roof, which is actually an air-supported structure, one of the only few stadiums in the world that does that. It has slightly pressurized air inside of the stadium to keep the roof up. The Tokyo Dome was built in 1988, the same year that Tokyo's former stadium, Korakuen Stadium, was demolished. That stadium had been around from 1937 up until 87. Japan decided that it was time for a $269 million domed stadium, the first for the country. I mean, they built buildings, roller coasters, all sorts of fun things around this stadium and made it into a better hub for entertainment. They've hosted wrestling here, football, probably any sport you could name, tons of concerts. This place rocks. This is the first stadium where Yoenis Cespedes hit a major league home run. I had to have it on the list. Even though I'm a Giants fan, you know I'm a sucker for A's moments. I want them to stay in the Bay. I want them to have a packed Coliseum or a new stadium. They could pack Mount Davis. Look how beautiful it is. Cespedes could be back. They could bring back Dallas Braden. Oh my goodness, they need to stay in Oakland. I'm gonna go crazy, guys. Back on topic, the Tokyo Dome is also home to the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame. MLB would have a game here every 4 years for a 2-game series from 2000 till 2012, but then they stopped. Then 2019, they came back for Ichiro's final game, and they haven't gone back since. I'm surprised Ohtani hasn't been there yet. The MLB has to have a game here with the Dodgers, Ohtani and Yamamoto, the two stars of their championship-winning World Baseball Classic team in 2023. The same team that 42% of Japan woke up at 8 a.m. to watch in the finals. I'm not even kidding with that number. I'd like to see more MLB games at the Tokyo Dome. I have a feeling it'll happen soon, hopefully. And with that being said, we are now on to number 2. Estadio Mobile Super, or Mobile Super Stadium in English, is my number 2 best non-MLB stadium. There were 11 games played here in the 90s and the 2010s. This place is flat out gorgeous. It has the 3rd highest capacity in Latin America. There's been games here across multiple decades. MLB likes coming here, and you can see why. It's amazing. The first MLB games here in 1996 were an August series between the Mets and the Padres, and this was actually the first time a MLB game had taken place outside of the United States or Canada. There were a total of 44 runs scored across 3 games, and this was due to the elevation of Monterrey, Mexico. It is 1,770 feet above sea level, which may sound high, but Denver, Colorado is actually about 4,000 feet higher. So it's high, but not that high. Shout out to my Colorado residents. Unfortunately, besides this series and a one-off opening day game for the Padres in '99, MLB didn't come back here until 2018. And some of you might remember this game because that's when the Dodgers combined for a no-hitter. Despite that series and another one that happened in 2019, no games have been played here, and I think that's a damn shame because this place is honestly an iconic stadium of Mexico. It is the largest capacity stadium there. It's held awesome events in the past. They had Guns N' Roses. They had Selena. They almost had Michael Jackson, but he got sick. This place is iconic. Before that 2018 series between the Dodgers and Padres, they actually made $5 million worth of renovations on the seats and adding new scoreboards. And this is because the city of Monterrey, Mexico, eventually want to get an expansion team, or at least have more games consistently take place in Monterrey. Unfortunately, Rob Manfred has essentially ruled this out due to the fact that this stadium has a capacity of 25,000 and he wants a stadium of 40 or 45,000, even though he's just fine with the idea of the A's not selling out any game in Las Vegas for the next 30 years. But that's besides the point. Mobile Super Stadium fucking rocks, and I hope we get some more games here soon. On to my honorable mentions. I'm going to keep these short in the sake of time, but I highly suggest you go look into them on your own because there's some cool things that I'm not going to be able to mention. First, we have Estadio Alfredo Harp Elú Stadium in Mexico City. This was the first stadium to host a game in Mexico besides Mobile Super Stadium, and that happened last season in 2023 in a series between the Giants and the Padres where more than 30 runs were scored in a 2-game series. This is because the altitude here is 2,000 feet higher than Denver, Colorado. It is over 7,000 feet above sea level. The ball flies, and we're going to get 2 more games here this year between the Houston Astros and the Colorado Rockies, who, funnily enough, are the home team. Opening in 2019, I really like the design. I'm really excited to see more games this year, and hopefully it becomes a yearly occurrence where we get a 2-game series where the ball's just leaving the park every inning. My final honorable mention is Rickwood Field. And this would actually be higher on my list if it wasn't for the fact that there actually hasn't been a game played here yet. I know, I cheated. That's why it's an honorable mention. That's why it's my video. The first game is planned to take place this year on June 20th between my San Francisco Giants and the St. Louis Cardinals. That is because this is the oldest professional baseball stadium in the United States. It was the home of the Birmingham Barons, and it was built in 1910. Willie Mays actually played on the Barons, and as he's the oldest living Hall of Famer, he is going to be honored at this game, and I think that's just awesome. And if you've seen my best and worst stadium videos, you know I love these intimate ballpark designs. This reminds me so much of my favorite Tiger Stadium. I am very excited for this game, and I hope you are too. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, my number 1 best non-MLB stadium is
Anderson hits it in the air to right. Back at the wall, and the White Sox win it.
I hope that video speaks for itself. The Field of Dreams is the best non-MLB stadium. I don't care what you think. This one rocks. You have a 7,000 person capacity, which is more than a usual A's or Rays game, let's be fair. And there are no outfield seats. It's corn. The atmosphere is like nothing else in Major League Baseball. This stadium is themed after the 1989 movie Field of Dreams, which is about baseball legends coming back from the dead to play at this stadium. And when I say it is themed after it, I literally mean it's right next to where they filmed the movie. Frank Thomas and some business partners bought this place and turned it into a stadium worthy of MLB games. Let's be real, there's not much to do in Iowa, and I bet the people in the surrounding area are happy to have a cool attraction like this. They went from saying, hey, the movie was filmed here, to saying, hey, there's a stadium in our backyard that has baseball games once a year. The fact that this is happening in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, very American, and baseball is America's pastime after all. I don't know, that's just me. The reason that there haven't been games here since 2022 is because they are actually renovating the place. The plan is to build 9 additional youth baseball stadiums at the facility, and I think that's just great. Imagine being a kid in Iowa, you have nothing to do because you live in Iowa and everything is flat, and you have your youth baseball games here at the mini Field of Dreams at the site next to the real Field of Dreams. This isn't going to be done until 2025. We might have to wait until then for some of these games, but it would be such a shame if they didn't come back, and it would honestly be really surprising to me if they didn't bring a yearly game back here. Here is the real field. They couldn't play at the real field because it didn't meet regulations. From 1989 until 2020, when they originally wanted to play here, this just stayed on this family's farm. People would come visit. They eventually built a souvenir stand, and a neighboring farmer put together his own team called the Ghost Players and would have exhibition games at the stadium. And these games allegedly had thousands of people driving from all over because, once again, you live in Iowa. You have nothing to do. There is not much else to say about this stadium except it is already legendary. After that first game, everybody knew it. I hope there are plenty more games here in the future. That's my number one. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. I literally read every single comment and try to respond as best I can. And don't be like this guy who criticized my lovely girlfriend and I's tier list, and when I asked him to post his own, has either been working on it for the last 3 days or took the coward's way out and didn't reply. You may have given our tier list an E for effort, and I'm going to give yours an F for fuck you. For everyone else who leaves your opinion, whether you agree with me or not, thank you for actually giving your thoughts. Seeing comments like this from my man right here make my day, and I really appreciate those of you who have been here from the start, and anyone who's just joining, please consider subscribing and sticking around. We have a pretty cool community here already, and I'd love to have you be a part of it. To those of you who are subscribed, however, you know how this thing goes. My best performing videos are always the negative ones, as sad as it is. And you know, whenever there's a top 5 best, the top 5 worst is coming next, and I am not holding back. Until next time, this is Sean, and that was my top 5.